Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. This is episode 148 of the Meet the Farmers podcast, and I'm your host, Ben Eagle. I'm really excited about today's show as we're talking about a film that is poised to inspire and reflect the reality of the regenerative agricultural revolution that we all know that is taking place across the UK, profiling some fantastic farmers and new entrants to the industry. 6 Inches of Soil is a documentary feature film that tells the story of the farmers, communities, chefs, and rural entrepreneurs who are looking to the future of farming and championing regenerative agriculture. Before we go on, and I don't often say this because it means that you're going to leave the podcast for a bit, but I really do recommend that you pause the podcast for a couple of minutes, go to 6inchesofsoil.org and watch the teaser film just to give you a flavour of this fantastic film project. Then come back and listen to the rest of the podcast. Okay, and if you've done that, I will carry on. So today I am joined by some key people involved in the film and who are all working to bring it to fruition. So today we'll discuss the film itself and its background, what the team are aiming to do, and of course, looking at the big F word, funding, and how the film moves towards its next stage. So today I'm joined by the producer, Claire McKenzie, and Anna Jackson and Adrienne Gordon, who both feature in the film. Welcome to you all. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Ben.
Claire, let's start with you. So a lot of listeners, I think, will probably actually have seen films like Kiss the Ground and Biggest Little Farm. Why is 6 Inches of Soil needed, in your opinion, and why now? Why is now an important time?
Yeah, we basically, as a team, we have a fantastic team, decided that there's a lot of footage and films that come out of America, but from Australia, etc. But there isn't one on this particular subject in Britain. And when we started our exploration, having done a brief project before, we found that there's just so many amazing stories right in this wonderful island of ours. So we wanted to tell that story, and there were so many things going on. Obviously, the huge subject is climate change and what farmers have faced every single day, particularly more than practically any other profession in the world. And then this obviously that we come into the issues of soil and all of the other poignant dilemmas going on in farming. And then put on top of that, you got policy and Brexit, and then our latest disaster in Ukraine. So there's so much to see and to discuss, but it's all very much on the British context. And that's why we felt that hadn't been made before, and we want to tell that story.
Yeah. And can you just give a bit of background to yourself, but also that sort of leads on to the project itself as well?
Yeah, I am a passionate environmentalist, have been involved pretty more in grassroots level. Food and how it's grown has been a particular passion of mine, forever involved with transition towns, particularly in cities in London and Ealing, and then more locally now in Cambridge. And through that, I developed this sort of passion and drive and have done a bit of campaigning. And then the film for me is a tool. It's like a public educational piece on that, and that's for the same for all of the team. We all feel like that. So it's me being able to use, and I studied politics, and I also have a background that was in TV production, so I can relate to creating this film.
How have you gone about researching the film and deciding on the approach and the way you structure it? Because there are so many ways that you could have done this, aren't there?
Yeah, so the exploration for me started in October of 2020, and that was started locally on our doorstep in Cambridgeshire. And it was through an organisation that I'm with called Carbon Neutral Cambridge. We wanted to explore what was going on our doorstep. And I was reading about regenerative farming, conservation farming, and farming closer to nature. And obviously on our doorstep we have Martin Lyons, who's head of Pen, and is also one of our partners now. And from there, talking to him particularly, actually, and then George Young, who's not in Cambridgeshire but is obviously in the East. Both of them opened up contacts and ideas and people for me to explore, and it just went from there. I just started unearthing through our local county council, different farmers at different stages.
Okay.
And it was just so exciting to find out. I know quite a lot about farming. My grandpa was a farmer, I've always lived rurally, but I was finding out things I didn't know, and I was really impressed with what was going on. So that's where it started, and it snowballed from there. So we did the first film from the ground up, very much a very factual piece, very much for farmers and conservationists, etc., and for us to have a webinar around it.
Yep.
And from there, just built and brought in different partners, and they, like the Pasture for Life, Soil Association, NFFN, FFCC, they've given me their coordinators to talk to, and I've been able to plug in to many different farmers. And we as a team, everyone else has been researching, and we came up with this format because there are so many issues in farming. There's so much to discuss. It's a multi-layered thing, and we want to do credit to that. It's complicated. It's a challenge. And quite often when you're watching pieces on farming, in Bristol particularly, it can be maybe a bit fluffy, a bit glossy, a bit superficial perhaps, and then that's only because I think food and farming is so complicated. So trying to do that in a way going beyond our first audience. The audience now is anyone that eats, really, but probably it will be those that are interested in climate change and the sort of ever-changing, evolving food and farming system. And we decided that new entrants particularly are faced with many of the challenges that kept coming up, many of the topics. And a lot of those we were meeting are making a change. They may be coming back to farm like Anna and saying, well, how can we push this further? How are we going to work with climate change? Do we adopt regenerative farming practices, working closer to nature? And that they felt like the right place to start. With Adrienne, it was looking at, wow, how did you get a land? So that's the land access issue. And then how are you going to farm? And again, she's doing with a incredible practice of organic, but with no dig and all of those challenges. And so we think the viewer can enjoy like the human aspect of it, can hear their personal stories, which is what we all love in the centre of film. But obviously from there, we'll get technical and we'll understand the highs and lows of their journey. And a journey for anyone is really interesting. And we are going on a journey with these two. And now we have another farmer from the Southwest. So, and they will go and meet experts who are doing amazing things like Ian Wilkinson down in Farm Ed, talk to policy people like Vicky Hurd, and just explore some of those gritty topics and find out why isn't not enough support for farmers to make a change, and all of these incredible things that are happening. We just need to get to the bottom of it. But try to keep it fun and exciting. And we love the subject, but we want everyone to love the subject too.
Before we go on to talk about Anna and Adrienne, about your stories, Claire, just sticking with the film process so far, and challenges. Yes, there are lots of challenges in ag, but there must have been plenty of challenges so far along the road with the film itself. Just run us through those. Yeah,
I think it's a documentary. So one of the biggest things with documentaries is we are going into people's lives. They're not trained actors. We are not paying anyone either. We're asking a lot from people to come and but we're all doing it as a passion project. And I think all the people we've chosen and we've spoken to are willing to be involved because they want to be part of that. They've got the same aims and objectives as we have with the film, and so they're using it as a messaging piece, public education. So the challenge there is we're going into people's lives. We're asking Anna and Adrienne for time. We go on their farm, they're working hard. How do we fit in? How do we take our camera crew in, of which it's a small camera crew, and work sensitively and well? And we've been learning to do that over the last year and a half. So that's probably one of the biggest challenges, of course, is the weather. It's going to be a joy. And then it's bringing in the other voices at the right time and piecing the story together well is a massive challenge. And we're writing the scripts at the moment. We've got new executive producers helping with that.
Yeah, exciting.
And that's the sort of the nuance side of it. We've got a huge database now with the most incredible people on it, but it's whittling that down and keeping the story tight and interesting.
Talking of the camera crew, the film's director, Colin Ramsey, has sent me a few thoughts of his experience of 6 inches of soil so far, which we will turn to now.
So last year was our pre-production year. We've been researching, building partnerships, establishing who the characters are, working out what the story is, what information we need to include, what are some of our core messages. As this is a campaigning film, we have a bit of a bias, so we are setting out to show the audience the benefits and opportunities of agroecological farming practices and how us as consumers can make choices, and how all the different stakeholders have to come together to do this because of climate change and an unsustainable future for food and farming. So working all that out has been a lot of time. So far we've been on all of our characters' farms doing sort of test shoots, test interviews with different people, seeing how they come across on camera, getting a sense of a style and a theme for the film as well. And this year we're knuckling down and we're on the farms, capturing all of the journeys of the different farms throughout the different seasons, and all the different moments in a farming schedule throughout the year that will be interesting to the audience. Mapping those out. We've also got some big events around the June time as well. So we have the cereals event, which we'll be covering, and also Groundswell, both in June, and we have an event in November as well. And then obviously harvest time and things going to market, so things get exciting throughout the summer as well. We're going to be using a range of techniques. So we've got drone footage, we've got dynamic sort of camera work. So there won't be too many sort of talking head style videos. It'll be more dynamic. A lot of outside footage. We'll be finding out ways to use the soil as well to transition between different segments. So creatively with animation as well. Trying to get the camera as close as possible to the source, we can see the life, and also using some microscopy as well from some of our soil scientists. So the main challenge with this film is there's so much information. We're not just following one farm, we're following multiple farms, and we have various experts coming in as well. And the food and farming landscape has multiple layers, multiple stakeholders, a very deep history. It's cultural, it's economic, it's social. And most people are disconnected from it. So how do you take all this, this incredibly rich, diverse world that's part of our culture, and people are very disconnected it because of modern industrial farming practices and the consumer culture we live in, and trying to connect the dots? That's the challenge, without blowing people's heads off in the process with too much information, and making it entertaining as well and interesting for people. And how do you make soil interesting? That's the kind of challenge that we have for making this kind of film. But we've done our research. We feel we've got a really good story for people, and I don't believe it's been seen on screen before, especially through a UK lens. So really excited about bringing this film to the big screen. We're building a community through our crowdfunding as well, building an audience, and on social media as well. So we're testing ideas with them, and we're going to be releasing footage as and when we shoot it throughout the year as well. So I'm really excited about where it's going, and it is a challenge making this film, but it's one which we all share in the team, and we're very passionate about the subject matter, and I'm certainly very passionate, and knowing that I can make a difference to food farming and climate change is very inspiring for me.
Anna and Adrienne, let's hear a bit more about you. A bit about your background, what you thought when Claire and the team approached you. Anna, let's start with you, I think. Can you give us just a bit of background to your farming journey and where you are now?
So I am an 11th generation farmer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I generally don't speak to many of those.
Yeah, and a lot of actually the farming line is women, which is really exciting. So I started on the farm, grew up on a farm, bare feet childhood, that kind of vibe. And I basically, as I was growing up, Dad said, "Don't go into farming. There's no money in it. You won't survive."
Usual story.
Yeah, get out while you can. He's like, "Let's get you an education." So that was the plan. So I did photography for about 7-8 years. started my own business, was doing really well. I was also running a non-for-profit called Zero Waste Life on the side to help people become more environmentally friendly. So I've always been an environmentalist. I've always cared about the environment. I just wanted to do more and didn't know how. And COVID then hit, and I was living in London, and I had basically all my clients dropped.
Yeah.
And the government weren't giving me enough money to live in London. So I thought, I'm going to have to go home. Moving home at the age of 28 is a difficult situation to be in. My parents are lovely. I adore them, but I'm like 28 years old at the time.
Yep.
So anyway, move home, start living with them, and I get bored pretty quick. And because I'm a doer, I'm not I can't sit down. And I said to Dad, can I just follow you around, basically?
Yep.
And he said, yeah, sure. So I followed him around the farm for like 6 months and adopted a little lamb called Timmy, who was going to die. And Dad said, if you can keep Timmy alive, I think you could become a farmer. So I said, all right, I'll give it a go. So Timmy is still alive today.
Fantastic.
He is castrated, but he's alive, and he wants and yeah, I've been farming ever since to this day. So that was February when COVID hit, and I think I'm nearly about 2 years in, but my maths is pretty terrible. But yeah, so
Okay. And Claire and Anna, when did you sort of start speaking?
Through Anna's consultant, Ben Taylor Davis, Regen Ben.
Yeah.
And I spoke to him, had an animated, amazing discussion. And I was told him we were on this journey to find new entrants. And he said, you need Anna Jackson. And she does YouTube, I think you've done a TikTok thing and everything. So she's brilliant on screen. So yeah, that's how we discovered it.
And Adrian, let's turn to your story, which is a bit different. And without me saying everything about it, I'm going to turn straight over to you and I should just say as well, you are on location at the moment in your polytunnel.
Yes, yeah. So I have no links to farming. I think my ancestry they were miners. How did I get here? Oh, I don't know.
This is that moment where you don't start self-reflecting too much.
Yeah, so I've also always been interested in food. I grew up vegetarian, which was quite different when I was a child.
Yep.
I was always the awkward one who people didn't know how to feed. I learned to cook, and I loved cooking and vegetables especially. And then I was also quite into conservation as a young adult, and ran a conservation society at university. I then detoured through working as a barista in coffee, making coffee, specialty coffee, which kind of got me interested in the origins of sourcing things, and then decided that I wanted to learn how food was grown. So I went traveling and woofing, which is willing workers on organic farms, and just went to as many different places as I could go to see how they were doing it and how they were growing food in a way that worked with nature and fed people who were in the local area. So then I decided that I wanted this to be my career, but I had no links, no connections to people in the UK. I was really fortunate to find out about the Land Workers Alliance, and so I joined them and started looking for work. I actually asked a local farmer, I rang him up and asked for a job, and he told me over the phone that I definitely wouldn't be cut out for it. So I ended up finding work in Sussex and on a veg box scheme, worked there for a year, which was through the pandemic. So that was really interesting, seeing the kind of boom of interest in local food and demand for it.
Yeah.
And then I did I was really fortunate to get a job doing maternity cover at a small CSA last year. And I already had this idea that I wanted to come home and do it myself.
Okay.
And kind of bring everything that I'd learned back to my community. So I was there last season, kind of really honing my plant management skills, and then now I'm here back in Cambridge. I'm renting 4 acres of land.
Yeah. So pardoning the pun, but that was when the seed of the idea for Sweet Pea Market Garden came about.
Yeah.
And you're here now. So what's the plan moving forward?
Yeah, amazingly, I found land, which is not easy to do. I found it by I volunteered at the Oxford Real Farming Conference for a few years, and I posted on the notice board, and Tom, who is running Manor Farm here in Caxton, wrote back, and he's the only person who I've spoken to about land, and he just happens to be amazing, really supportive, really interested in regenerative farming practices himself.
Yeah. I have to say, on an aside, that part of Oxford Real Farming Conference, that notice board, is one of my favourite things there.
It's great, isn't it?
It's such a good idea, and I've heard quite a few stories of it being really effective.
Yeah, it really connects people. Yeah, it's brilliant, and that's what in person the Oxford Real Farming Conference is so good at as well, because of those little, just the side conversations that you have are kind of where the magic is, which is why I love going to those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I really just starting out. I've got some inheritance money that I'm investing in setting up. I've literally started from scratch. I had nothing, no tools, I didn't even own a spade or like a screwdriver. So I have borrowed everything that I could and spent inheritance money getting started up, and I'm just now trying to get to apply for market stalls so that I can sell through local markets, and also I'll be selling to cafes and other businesses.
Yeah. What about your aims, aspirations, Anna?
My goal, eventually, when I came back to the farm, it was basically a different farm from when I grew up. So I came back and was quite shocked at how much it had changed. I'd been back to visit often, obviously, but I hadn't worked on the farm really with Dad for years. And then I came back and Dad had become a completely different farmer and someone I didn't really recognise. And I started to learn that he'd become obsessed with compost teas, and he was excited with his new no-till drill, and he was telling me all about the different types of worms he's discovered and all of it. Yeah, I literally never met him in real life. So
who is this guy?
I then read Dirt Soil by Gabe Brown. Ironically, I read this when I was in London. So when I was living in London, Dad said, "Got a book for you, I think you should read it." And I said, okay, I'm interested. And I read it in London, and that, excuse the pun, planted the seed.
Very good.
For probably what was to come. And then when I came home, I obviously had read the book, and then I saw everything in real life, like the Live with Gabe Brown situation. And Dad, was just like the happiest farmer you've ever seen. And it's incredible. People talk about this, but regen farming, I think it does change your mental health as much as it changes, the ground and the planet and all of that. But Dad is a happier farmer since he's gone regen, so much happier. And I think that's super interesting. But yeah, so my goal on the farm is basically, we've got kind of a 30-year program here because we would like to do it quicker. Dad is steaming through because of his age, and he would like to get everything done.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll never retire, but he would like to consider that he might retire. And so that's the plan, is to get our farm. We started our regen journey 7 years ago. So is to get our farm from a very conventional ploughing farm, which was 7 years ago, to a, happy regen farm and be organic as we can possibly be, we're not going to be registered as organic, but we're going to try and be as organic as possible.
Okay, Claire. So I mean, we've heard from both of them there about this, and that these are just two wonderful stories which you are uncovering. In terms of support for the farm, who's support for the film? Who is supporting it?
Well, we've been really lucky so far. We just had our first crowdfunder, which I'm not going to lie to anyone. I've never been a massive keen social media person, as all my friends will tell you, but I had to make friends for that, and it's worked really well. And we've been through British Film Institute and through trusts and foundations and talking to people, but this was our first time publicly opening up, and we believed that there was a need for this film, and people had been asking us, saying, we love your idea, we think you should go for it, which is one reason we were making it. But suddenly to see that translate into actual cash was quite phenomenal. And not just that, it didn't really matter if someone was giving £1 or 1,000, the messaging alongside it was unbelievable. And we also networked even further to discover more angles or experts or advice, because we're taking advice. We do not want to make a story that is riddled with issues and whatever, mistakes, and we want it to be as factually correct as possible. So it was just really amazing. So we managed to get to that, but meanwhile we also managed to get our first corporate sponsor came on board, Dave Gordon, who owns BAM Clothing, Bamboo Clothing, and he's a phenomenal man because he himself is going to be a new entrant. So he's looking for land at the moment and he wants to farm, but he's passionate about the subject. He is passionate about soil health, like really into it. So those are the two big ticks. So that's gone well so far. People can still donate via our website because we've got a pot of money now, so we can actually, the cameras can roll. We did a bit before and that was just off our own back, but to hire more crew, to get the sound in, to travel further to Cornwall to meet Ben Thompson, one of our farmers, etc. We need that sort of cash. And then there's other technical things we need to pay for, but we will then do latterly another big fundraiser. But meanwhile we're talking to more corporates, etc., and hoping that perhaps we can cover it in that way, and trusts and foundations, because at the end of this film, it's not just going to sit. We're going to go up to Sheffield Film Festival in June, where we'll talk to people and try and sell it. We've got this executive producer on board, Mark Aldridge, who's got huge experience in TV and film, who will help us with that journey. If we get it into it being commissioned, would be incredible at some point. We want to remain independent so we can tell the story we want to do, because at the moment we want that control. So the funding we will carry on with, because we will need a post-production, and the big one is for the impact campaign at the end. So it'll be an impact educational campaign where we would take the film around. Big films like Seaspiracy and Kiss the Ground have amazing educational and now foundations behind them, so that you can carry on using the film as a tool, take it in. And one farmer has already offered, David White, who's been hugely supportive of our project, again, who's another kind of founder who Anna knows, who's in the BASE organisation, and he's a local farmer here, and he's already offered to host like an event on his farm where people will come and we can watch the film and we can have a film discussion evening. And that's the kind of thing we'd love, for farmers to think about. But then educational establishments and taking it into Groundswell's one of our partners, show it there. We already did a piece last year where we showed the trailer. So all these different avenues, but around it would be you show the film and then you have discussion to understand what all of this is all about, because it's complicated, but it's exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. And anyone listening, if they want to help in any way, whether that's through funding or other means, what could they do?
Well, go to our website. So that's 6inchessoil.org. Or through our social channels, again, same 6 Inches Soil, Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and just communicate with us directly. I love speaking to anyone on this subject, and obviously we talk to anyone from farmers, there's people who are private investing in it, soil scientists, and anyone, and anyone with an angle, an idea. It's incredible. I mean, I've even touched base with the long-term editor of the Archers. He and I are due to have a meeting, who has been touched by Stephen Briggs, and just these incredible people who know so much, and they can add so much. And if there's a particular angle you think we might not be able to fit it in, but it's great for us to have it there and to be able to play with that. And we're trying to build our audience, really. So at the end of the day, once we have the finished piece and shorter pieces to share, etc., we need an audience. So just keep following us, keep supporting. So
fantastic.
That's our main.
We always finish the show with the same two questions. I'm actually going to split these between you. So this is a message for the public, first of all, which, Claire, I'm going to turn to you on this.
Yeah, so our main message really is think about your soil. So if you're a farmer, gardener, or I don't know, you may have access as far as someone else's land, to think about that. How are you working on it? Don't disturb it so much. Learn about it. Learn what's under your feet, because as we know, there's very little known about it, but there's more to discover every single day. So it's nurturing the soil, and then support farmers. We that's what one of our main local farmers. Find out. Okay, you might be in a city, so that's different. You could buy into a bot scheme online now. There are amazing online services. You can order fruit and veg, meat, dairy, anything from these farmers that are working so hard, and they're challenging the system and going beyond just selling to supermarkets, and they're actually finding their own markets. And if you can do that and reach out and work within your budget, some of them offer incredible ways where you give them. I went on to one the other day, and you put your budget in, and they will send you accordingly the meat that you can afford. So you don't have to think of it as there are ways around it. And I think biggest thing is to campaign. If you want to change and you want to see something happening, get campaigning, march on the streets. Today is Earth Day. There are campaigns, there's always climate marches, etc. Or if there's local farmers calling for something, your local council. I just think that's one of the best ways of doing it. Watch films like Kiss the Ground and have discussions afterwards, and join things like Nature Friendly Farming Network. Isn't just for farmers, it's also for the public. You can join. It's amazing. And all these different parts that we have on our website, they're all doing incredible things like Sustain and trying to change the system, trying to make it better, not just for farmers but for all of us. So that's my main message to the public, or our main, I know, as a team.
Brilliant. And finally, a message to farmers. And Anna, I'm going to turn to you for this one first.
Yeah, so I think my message to farmers would be, don't be afraid to change. I think the majority of the farmers in the UK are my dad's age, and majority of the big farmers in the UK are my dad's age. And my dad, if he can make a change, and he has porridge every single day, it's a routine. So if he's a routine man and he can change the whole farm, then you can change your whole farm too, and it is doable. Try not to disturb the soil, keep the soil surface covered, keep living roots in the soil, grow a diverse range of crops, and bring back grazing onto the land. That's the 5 principles, and they're so basic and they're so doable for everyone. And we're surrounded by non-regen farmers. We're kind of the only regen farmers close to us. And, come to us, come and have a chat. Have a chat with other regen farmers. Don't be afraid to reach out. I think there's such a stigma about, oh, how much yield did you get? Oh, what should we get here? And all of this. Come and have a chat. Ask us if our yield has dropped. We don't mind. We want to talk about money. We want to talk about yields. We want an open conversation about farming and about how it's changing for the better, and how you yourself can change for the better. I mean, probably most people listening to this podcast are probably already regen, so hello, welcome, well done. But if you're not, get on board. You can do it. It's possible, it's doable, and financially it actually saves you money in the long run.
Fantastic. And Adrienne, we'll give you the final word.
Oh wow, how do I follow that? I think I was thinking collaborate and communicate. We need to be working together on this. It's not something that we're going to solve individually. Like, the answers are already out there. We all just need to kind of work together. And the way that I've found access to land is through another farmer making that opportunity available to me by seeing a bit of space that he wasn't using and saying, oh, hey, I've got this, like maybe someone else can make use of it and make it productive. So yeah, be part of the conversation.
Brilliant. We will leave it there, I think. But a huge thank you to all of you, honestly, for coming on and telling us about the film and the project as a whole so far. To anyone listening, make sure you do visit the website, 6inchesofsoil.org, or you can find out more on Instagram at 6inchesofsoil or on Twitter at 6inchessoil. But good luck, guys, for everything. And I'm really looking forward to seeing it progress as it goes. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening. And if you're feeling really generous, leave us a rating or review. That all helps in telling more people about the show. Next time, I will be speaking to chili grower Sheena Horner, the fantastic Sheena up in Dumfries and Galloway. So I hope you can join me then. But until then, have a great week.